welcome to the deep dive.
Okay, today we're getting straight into something that really shook the political landscape here in the UK.
Yeah, maybe not a full-blown earthquake, but definitely a significant tremor. We're looking at a specific electoral defeat.
And it was razor thin. That's the headline grabber. But it immediately became this huge wake-up call, particularly for the Labour Party.
Absolutely, that tiny margin is key, but the bigger story is the massive reversal it represented. So our mission today really is to dissect the fallout from the Runcorn and Helsby by-election.
Right.
We'll look at what the losing candidate herself said went wrong, a really candid assessment, actually,
All right.
and then trace how that local shockwave seemed to, well, immediately change the national conversation between Labour and Reform UK. And that margin? 6 votes. Just 6. When you think about all the campaigning, the money, the sheer effort.
It's incredible. It really highlights the stakes. Thousands of votes swinging on just a handful of decisions.
Okay, so let's get the basic facts down for you. This was the Runcorn and Helsby by-election back in May.
The winner was Sarah Pochin for Reform UK.
And the Labour candidate, Karen Shore, she lost out.
By that margin. 6 votes. Seems simple, but politically.
Wow. It's the context that makes it such a shockwave, isn't it?
Exactly. Context is everything here. You have to understand, this wasn't just some marginal seat Labour lost.
No, far from it.
They held the seat in Cheshire with a massive majority. I mean, huge. 14,696 votes.
And that was less than a year before the by-election.
Precisely. So to see that kind of majority just evaporate and flip, even in a by-election, which can be tricky, it suggests something really fundamental shifted.
A 14,500 vote cushion vanishing, then tipping the other way by 6 votes. It's almost unbelievable. It points to a serious problem with voter loyalty for Labour there.
And there was background noise too, wasn't there? The reason for the by-election itself?
Yeah, the previous Labour MP, Mike Amesbury, resigned. He admitted punching a constituent. So the whole atmosphere was already pretty toxic for Labour going in.
Right, which definitely didn't help. It meant the campaign started on the back foot, defensively. But does that alone explain such a huge swing? Probably not.
I find it hard to square, honestly. 14,000 votes?
Yeah.
That's more than just a protest against the previous guy.
I agree. It suggests that loyal Labour voters either just stayed home or, crucially, switched in large numbers. And that brings us to Karen Shore's own take on it.
Yeah, her analysis is really interesting. She didn't just say, oh, well, tough result.
Well, she called it very disappointing, obviously, but also explicitly a wake-up call for Starmer, for the whole party.
And she pointed fingers, didn't she? Not just at the situation, but at specific mistakes made by Labour itself.
Exactly. She said quite plainly, mistakes have been made. And she linked them to difficult decisions the government had taken.
Okay, so what were these mistakes? Did she name names or policies?
Policies, mainly. She highlighted 2 things that seemed to have really hurt them on the doorstep. First, the announcement about the winter fuel allowance.
Ah, okay. That's always a sensitive one. A key benefit for older people, often a core Labour voting group, right? Messing with that or even hinting at it.
It's risky territory. And the second area was around wider welfare reform discussions.
So potentially affecting quite a broad range of people who might rely on support. What did she say was the actual problem? Was it the policies themselves or how they were rolled out?
Her argument focused squarely on the communication. She said, and this is a direct quote, there wasn't enough information there for people to understand the reality of what it would mean on the ground.
Right, so a communication vacuum. If you're talking about changing something like the winter fuel payment, and you're not crystal clear.
Someone else will fill that gap for you. And according to Shore, that's exactly what happened. She said the fear-mongering won over.
So Reform UK didn't necessarily need a brilliant counter-proposal. They just needed to amplify uncertainty where Labour hadn't provided clarity. Is that the idea?
That seems to be her analysis, yes. Labour failed, in her words, to take people with you when you take a difficult decision.
Which allowed this narrative to spread that Labour was potentially pulling support from working people, from older people.
Exactly. That narrative took root. It wasn't necessarily that voters hated Labour's overall direction, maybe, but the handling of these specific tough policies was seen as, well, sloppy.
She did also mention the difficult backdrop, though, fighting an unpredictable election.
Yeah, campaigning against policies she herself admitted were unpopular.
And she made the point about Labour being only a year into government, inheriting, as she put it, a really terrible situation after 14 years of austerity, under previous governments.
She did. She balanced the internal critique, we made mistakes, with the external context. It's a tough situation we inherited.
So how much was genuine reflection and how much was maybe trying to soften the blow by pointing to the inherited mess?
It's hard to say definitively, but I think what's significant is that she specifically defended Keir Starmer.
Oh, right. What did she say?
She said, "You can't just pin it on the Prime Minister. I think that would be very unfair." She seemed to separate the communication failures, maybe blaming the wider party machine, from Starmer's leadership itself.
That's interesting. It suggests she thought the core message might be okay, but the delivery, the execution, was where they fell down.
Which leads directly into her thoughts on strategy going forward, because the Runcorn result blew up their previous approach.
What was the previous approach?
During the by-election itself, Shore said their tactic was actually to try and steer away from Reform UK. Don't give them oxygen. Focus on Labour's offer.
Well, clearly that didn't work out. 6 votes proved that strategy failed spectacularly.
Precisely. The results showed that ignoring Reform UK isn't an option when they can apparently tap into so much discontent and, as Shore puts it, fear-mongering and division.
So the new tactic has to be direct confrontation.
That's what she argued. It has to be different. She warned activists, it's going to be the fight of our lives.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah. She said it means getting out there, boots on the ground, making sure people understand the reality of Labour's plans, countering the fear narrative head on.
And really hammering home that Labor is, quote, the party of working people trying to fix the inherited problems. Basically, don't let the opposition define you.
Exactly. Runcorn proves silence just allows the other side's narrative to dominate.
And this is where you see the ripple effect, right? This one incredibly tight result in Cheshire suddenly forces the national leadership's hand.
Absolutely. That 6-vote margin created this sudden, very real fear. What if this Runcorn effect, this collapse of traditional loyalty plus a potent protest vote, could happen elsewhere?
Across dozens of similar seats, maybe.
That's the nightmare scenario for Labour. And that fear seems to have directly prompted Sir Keir Starmer's big keynote speech at the party conference shortly after.
Right, his language really escalated there, didn't it? It felt like a direct response.
It certainly seemed that way. He framed the whole political situation in almost existential terms. He said the country stands at a fork in the road.
The choice being renewal or decline. Very stark.
And he went further. He called the current political struggle a test, a fight for the soul of our country.
Every bit as big as rebuilding Britain after the war.
Yeah.
That's about as high stakes as you can get rhetorically.
It is. And significantly, he personalized it. He didn't just talk about Reform UK as a party, he went directly after Nigel Farage.
How specifically? What was the line of attack?
He accused Farage of crossing a moral line, but the real punch was questioning his patriotism, basically.
Ooh.
Starmer claimed Farage doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it as much as he does.
Wow. That's trying to paint Farage not just as politically wrong, but as fundamentally anti-British. A very calculated move.
Definitely forcing a choice. Starmer's renewal versus Farage's alleged politics of grievance and division.
Highly charged language.
And, predictably, Farage hit back immediately. And hard.
Extremely hard. He didn't just defend himself. He went on the attack claiming Starmer's language was dangerous.
How so? He claimed Starmer's words will incite and encourage the radical left. And he actually named Antifa and other organizations like that.
Goodness. And he linked it to safety concerns.
Directly. He said Starmer's language directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners, which is a very serious accusation.
And then he made that specific reference, which we need to be careful reporting, but it was highly inflammatory.
Yes. He mentioned the Charlie Kirk murder, calling Starmer's remarks an absolute disgrace. Now, it's vital for you listening to understand, Farage was using extremely volatile rhetoric here.
Absolutely. Linking Starmer's words, however strong, to inciting violence is a massive rhetorical leap designed to escalate things dramatically.
It reframes the debate entirely. Instead of arguing policy or even patriotism, Farage tried to position Starmer as the one endangering people, putting his own campaigners at risk. A powerful, if highly controversial, defensive tactic.
And the incredible thing is tracing this whole escalation back, from Karen Shore talking about poor communication on the winter fuel allowance in one constituency,
to national leaders accusing each other of moral failings, undermining Britain, and even inciting violence.
all seemingly catalyzed by that tiny 6-vote margin in Runcorn. It just shows how fragile things feel politically.
It really does. So if we pull this all together for you, the listener, there's this clear tension. On one hand, you've got Shore's very practical ground-level analysis. We messed up on policy details and how we talked about this.
Fix the comms, basically.
Right. But on the other hand, you have Starmer and Farage now framing this as a huge, almost existential battle for the nation's soul. Renewal versus grievance.
So where does that leave things? Which brings us to our final thought for you to consider.
Given that a 14,000-plus majority vanished and flipped because of just 6 votes, does that prove that the real battleground is actually those micro details? Getting the policy communication perfect on things like winter fuel payments.
Or does that incredibly tight result actually confirm the opposite? That maybe the only thing powerful enough to cause such a massive swing to overcome that kind of historical loyalty is the big emotional culture war argument, the fight for the soul of the country stuff.
Where should a party focus its energy now? On perfecting the ground game and policy rollout, or leaning into the high-stakes ideological confrontation? That Runcorn result could honestly be used to argue either case.
Something to think about.